Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And the new Fire EX Lumi has dropped, and she's already been making waves as a very controversial unit. Not helped at all by me calling her trash, but, it's neither here nor there. But we're gonna test her out for realsies today and see if she is still efficient and effective at doing what she needs to do, or if she's just another one-off character that is just bait. Because look at her. Look. The artwork definitely is really nice. I will give her that, and the animations look really nice. I will give her that as well. Her kit, though, leaves a little for me to desire. Maybe not you, but me. So she is fire, she is physical, she is on Summer Memories, Goddess of Destiny, and Octagram Demon Lord. I actually think Goddess of Destiny might be the best EX meta, just because of how many units get added to that all the time, really. So we'll definitely use her, or we'll attempt to use her on the Goddess of Destiny team, and we'll see how that goes. But her skills, she is an AoE fire physical unit, 300%. She increases your physical attack by 5% when you use the ult, so that's a little bit of extra support. Her first skill is a 50% ult damage buff to only dark and fire units, but every time you use your protector, this will increase by 10%, which caps out at 100%. So, you could either use a 55-point skill and have 50%, or you could use a 55% skill and have 100% ult damage, which sounds really good. But it is, again, only for fire and dark units. So a light unit, a space unit, an earth unit will not receive this buff at all. And then on top of that, she also lowers fire and dark resistance by 10%, which is just additional extra damage, which is cool if you're nuking with a fire or dark unit. Her second skill increases blue damage by 70% for 2 turns, which is a very significant amount of damage on blue orbs, especially when you consider that, the Dark Milim has her dark attack and attack buff and the weakness buff, and, those all last for 2 turns. So, buffing the blue damage by 70% for 2 turns along with all of that does give you quite a bit of normal orb damage, which is nice. And then she also charms the unit, enamors, whatever you want to call it, which gives everybody on your team 15% extra ult gauge at the end of the enemy's turn for 2 turns. So, in case you really need to get someone's ult. Milim doesn't really need it. Ramaris already charms as well. I guess if you're trying to get for like Lumi's ult, you have 30% from coming from Ramaris and Lumi, but realistically, if you're only nuking with Milim, you don't really need it, because Milim's going to steal all the orbs to herself anyways and give herself EX ults, so I feel like it's a little bit unnecessary. Her Valor trait is terrible, let's not even read over that. Her actual trait, if you have dupes in her, she gets extra crit damage after you send a 6 combo of blues, which is fine and dandy and everything, but it's only for her, and if she's under a support unit, then you can, so maybe like you put her underneath a Violet or something. I don't know, and you're running Violet on a blue team. It's very situational. When you get her to 120, you get the extra 20% crit or ult damage, so it's 320 or 640%. And then she gets extra crit damage when Ramaris is in a battle slot, which I have not used Ramaris at all yet. So, and then she is a support unit on the EX board. So, limited teams, fire and dark, blue focused. We'll try and use her. I have no guarantees though. So let's get started. Okay, so thankfully it only took me a few tries to actually get the full buff run. So we are using the blue gauge on blue orb charm to ensure that we can get maximum protection gauge, because I do need double trainee on turn 5. It's just that turn 1 with this team, we don't have an orb changer for the special convert right here. So we don't use Violet. I'm not going to move her around and try and get 5 blues. We're just going to leave it, because 4 blues with a protection gauge that we have starting will be enough to get us trainee. It's just that turn 2 is really, really RNG based, even more so than normal, because you're praying for a lot of Milims and things you can convert to Milim. So we're sending 4 orbs here. Thankfully, okay, cheeky counter, but we do get a very good hand where it's only Lumi and Milim. Lumi has an orange, so we can now bring Violet in for Lumi, change that one orange, and then we still have enough points to then change all the other blues, which are just the 2 Lumi orbs, into Milim, and we get a full hand of Milim, which is a good way to start out this run, and it's really what you need. You really need a full hand of Milim turn 2, and then you can really let it roll from there. It's just that you do need to play around, because the hero buff and the debuff is only for 1 turn, the ult resistance down and the crit damage is only for 1 turn, and the ult damage buff is only for 1 turn. And they have either main effects or secondary effects that you cannot hold in the back for full power the following turn. So we have to use them all the same turn, or what amounts to the same turn. So it's based on the rewind. Rewind on turn 5, and pray you have enough to do everything. So we have 93 points here, we have the Milim ult plus change, we're going to use the Shizu orb swap, and then we're going to yoink all the orbs again, because this will get her EX ult. And notice that we don't need the charm, right? We don't need the charm effect from Valentine. We're going to, I believe, use it here anyways, just for extra damage, so we can say that we did use it. But this full hand of Milim would have gotten her EX ult regardless, so we didn't need an extra 15%. So now the blues are buffed by 70% damage, and now let's see how much they do, by themselves. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. And we're doing 22,000 damage apiece. That is without the dark attack and without the weakness damage. So it will go up considerably once we use those, but we can't use those yet, because we need Milim to stay up front pretty much from here on out. So we don't want to use the buffs too soon and then have them run. So there's the charm. It was useless on Milim because she was already maxed out, and none of the other units have anything close to an ult because we've been stealing all the orbs. So I don't really see the point in the 15% charm effect, but now we're going to use the buffs because it lasts for 2 turns, turn 4 to turn 5. We're going to rewind turn 5, so we're going to retain everything. But here, we're going to swap the ult again so we can continue sending a full hand of blues. It's just that now I don't need to yoink them all with Milim because she's already done. But I need a full hand of blues because I need the points, I need a full protection charm or gauge from Trainee, and now turn 5 is where the playing really starts to come in. We can't have the hero up front right here, we can't have Violet up front because their skills will get sealed. Milim and Shizu, we've already used them, so it's fine if they get sealed. So here's where the math and big brain stuff begins, because we need enough points to use the rewind and the crit buff here, and then we need to get back enough points and another Trainee to ensure that we have enough to use both the ult buff and the Violet debuff. So we're going to use Trainee now, give us 40 skill points, and that's just to get our baseline points back up, and then we're going to send these 5 orbs and pray that it gets us another Trainee, which it does, thankfully, and 30 skill points, which is just enough. Just barely enough to do what we need to do here. So the rewind kicks in. We've used the crit buff from the hero, so we've already been critting. We already have the crit resistance down on them. Now we're going to bring Violet in for the hero, because she serves no purpose now. We've already used everything for her. And now we need to realize that, do we have enough points? Do we have enough points with 73 plus the 80 to use everything? And the answer is yes, because math. But we have to use it in a specific order, because we only have 4 stacks of Valentine right now, not 5, so we're not completely capped out on her damage, which I want to be capped out. That's the whole point of this. So, will we have enough points if we just lose some because we're at 73? We're going to gain 40, but we can't go over 100. Math is hard. So will we still have enough to do what we need to do if we have to use the Trainee now, and then use it again to ensure that we have maximum buff, which we do, thankfully, by like 5 points. So 55 point here, we have 45 now, and then we're going to gain another 40 from Trainee, which gives us 85. 5 points over what we need, so it's cutting it real close. But now we have every single buff and debuff active on Milim, ready for the big time nuke. And now we're going to see how much damage we do with the normal orbs, and then the big time orb, big time ult. So we have the attack, dark attack, weakness strike, guaranteed crits, crit damage from Violet. And then we'll cancel out of this. We'll check the ult. We have the full 100% damage right there. And then we have a lot of debuffs on them. So crit resistance down, defense down, fire and dark resistance down, and then the ult resistance down by 55%. So this is every single thing that we could use on this team is active right now. So let's go ahead and send the useless Violet Orbs. They're not buffed really at all. And then we'll send Milim, see how much damage he does now. They are not buffed by the 70% though. Keep that in mind. So we do 52,500, 51,000 right there. And then the 200% orb does 107, which is good damage. And then Milim comes in and she rocks, you know, their world with quite a bit more damage than 100,000. Splashing around in the waves. So she does 960 to 70,000 damage. Almost a million apiece. Which is a lot of damage. Which is definitely a lot of damage. But we did require quite a bit of big burning setup and units and charms to do this run. And I'm going to tell you right now, I have a run that I've been saving for the full Power Inferno video. It does more than this. And it doesn't have Valentine, because I did it last week. Alright, so just, we'll keep that in mind. But, regardless, it is really good damage in 5 turns. Almost a million apiece in 5 turns is not what I would call weak. It's just that I can do more in the same amount of time without having Lumi, without having the newest premium summonable unit. And for this team to work the way it does in the setup, you can't really swap anybody out. So it is kind of a fault from Lumi that she is very, very replaceable on this team. But I cannot deny that she did help us do a lot of damage. So if we had had the blue orb buff, I don't know where we would have got the points for it. But, you know, that final nuke turn, Milim would have done probably like over 100k each blue. So, I mean, that would have been real good damage. But is it worth the trade-off? I don't really know, because you're not guaranteed a bunch of Milim orbs on turn 5 on the nuke, because you don't have points to guarantee Milim orbs. It's all RNG at that point, so is it really worth it? I kind of don't think so. But let's move on. Alright, so let's say that you're not trying to min-max the stage and do millions of damage. You just want to do good damage with, you know, the full meta team as it stands right now. So we have Milim, we have Shizu, we have Ramirez, we have Lumi, and we're going to bring on physical EX Rimuru to give the physical buff to Milim, because it's something else that this team doesn't have. Now, this will work. It guaranteed will work. We have less points that we need to use overall, because instead of bringing Violet and the hero for, you know, 80 plus 50, now we just have another 80-point skill to use, so it's going to work out just fine. Is there a huge drop-off in damage? I don't know, let's find out. I actually haven't used Ramirez yet on this team, but she's only orb-changing turn 1, and then she's giving us some charm, which I don't really know that we need. That's also the first time I've seen her intro, so... Alright, well, let's see how this goes, for funsies onesies. Alright, so turn 1 orb change with Ramirez. We have that covered now. We're going to bring in Milim for Rimuru, and we'll bring in Shizu for Ramirez. And we'll go ahead and send all this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we've got almost double protection gauge. That's really good. And we have a bunch of points. So 6-handed blue is always a good thing. This way we'll be able to maybe more reliably use the buff. So here, what can we do? We can use this Rimuru's orb change. It's just that, will it hit Lumi and Shizu? Will it not? I don't really know. We kind of have to hope. We kind of don't need to, though, because we do have a trainee, so we can use enough. So let's go ahead and just bring you in for Valentine. Alright, so let's use the orb change here. Alright, cool, that took that one. We'll bring Rimuru in for Ramirez now. We'll use trainee, get 40 points, which will then be enough to both orb change those 2 blues and steal them with Milim. So we're going to look pretty good here. And then next turn, now that we have guaranteed blues coming in, we can use the Valentine orb buff and the charm. So there we go, double trainee, 59 points, over over one alt for Milim, and then we can just steal the next turn and get the full alt, which then also begs the questions like, why do we have 2 charm units when we're nuking with Milim? It was, whatever. Alright, so let's go ahead and swap that alt. We're going to use trainee, give us another 40 points. And then we shall yoink them again. And then we'll bring in Lumi for Rimuru. And then we'll use her charm and orb damage. And then that's all the points we can use, because we don't have enough to use Ramos' charm right now. So, now we have the blue buff. 70% damage right here. We don't have enough to use all the other buffs, which is unfortunate. So we're doing... how much? 21k, 4,000 with a Pierce. Okay, thanks. 44k. Alright, so now we have the EX alt with Milim. And now we need to take stock on the skills that we need to use. So, let's go ahead and... so there's the charm kicking in, but again, Milim already has the EX alt. These two were nowhere near close because they haven't sent really any orbs since turn 2. So, or turn 1, real. So, let's use the attack and then the weakness damage. Alright, and then what do we need in the back? So we've got the 80 plus the 55, so that's 135 points that we need to have. So, okay. Let's do trainee. And... let's see. Let's do the swap again. Hopefully we have no points after this, right? We need 135. We'll have double trainee, so we'll have 80 right there. So it's just what we can get back here on this turn. Okay, yeah, we will have enough. Cool. Okay, so we can do full buff here. But have we used 5 stacks of Lumi? That's, well, 5 stacks of trainee to get Lumi maxed out. That is the next question. Because I don't think we have. I think we've used 4. There's the charm, but again, we have a Shizu ult now, which I guess is cool. And Lumi is sitting at 80%, so we need to use it 2 more times. So, it's kind of unfortunate. I kind of want the Shizu ult, because we have it, but we can't really efficiently use it, because we need to bring in Rimuru. Because we need to be able to use this first trainee, get Lumi up to 90%, have enough points to use the physical buff, and then use Lumi or trainee again, and then max out Lumi's buff. So, you're going to go away. Alright, we'll use, this will be 90% ult damage. And then we have enough to use the physical buff. And then we'll use it one more time. And we shall have barely enough to use the ult damage, but at least it is now maxed out. So 100% right here, plus the resistance down, plus the physical resistance down, plus the defense down, plus the physical buff, plus the attack and dark attack, plus the weakness strike. So, will we do 970k? Probably not. Will we do a lot of damage? Yes. Let's see how much our normals do now. They're doing 43k? Was that what I saw? 43k? And then the alt does 510. Much, much, much less damage. Is it still enough to wipe the team? Yes. Very much so. Is it enough damage to wipe Inferno 3? I don't know. Maybe. They have about 600 something, and normally by the time you nuke, they're hovering around like 550, 530. That may not have been enough damage to kill Inferno 3 right there. So, this isn't the super sweaty tryhard team. It is a good team. But, oh well. Let's move on. Okay, so we're in the Fire Tempered Edge stage. This is to get a baseline for the next test, because we have brought the Fire team with the skill Fused Fire Shizu, we brought Violet, we brought Fire Guy. His ult buff is 50% plus 20% crit resistance down. And now we're going to see when Violet, who has her 2 buffs and the Pierce buff from Shizu, who helps Violet do more damage in this setup. Whether it's going to be Fire Guy or Fire Valentine, who will have probably about 70% ult damage, plus the fire resistance down, which is already going to be covered by this Shizu technically, but they are both ult supports, so we will compare them doing ult support. So, let's go ahead and use Guy's skill here, 50%, and then we will bring in Violet for, I guess, Guy, because we can't do it for Shizu. Alright, and then we'll use Toa. Won't get a full hand of that either. And then we will use the fire attack plus 30% fire resistance down, and we'll just see how much damage Violet does here for funsies onesies. And it is 193,000 damage. Okay, so now let's come back and let's do the same thing, but with Valentine. Okay, we are back. So Violet has, well, what amounts to an EX ult, even though we can't really do that with her. But we have 100 points plus the Toa, so we can use both of the 55-point buffs. Violet is fire and physical, so she is giving passive buffs to Violet herself, which is nice. So let's do this. We will then use the buff from Shizu. Now, if Shizu is not skill fused for you, then actually Lumi's buff will be slightly better than normal, because Lumi would then lower fire resistance by 10%. But because my Shizu is skill fused, she's going to lower it by 30%, which is better. So we're missing out on a little bit of damage difference, but oh well, it is what it is. It's what the units have, so it's what we gotta use. So let's do this. We'll use our second Toa, so only 2 stacks, which means that we're at 70% ult damage for a fire or dark unit. So let's bring her in here, and then we'll go ahead and use that. So 70%, fire resistance down 10%, whatever. So our damage will be less, right? Because we no longer have the 20% crit resistance down. We're doubling up on the fire resistance down, which doesn't matter. So we're going to do less damage here. 191. Not by a lot. Not by a whole ton, because we are gaining 20% ult damage. So it's slightly offset. It's still tiny bit less, and you could argue that it's neither here nor there. It kind of washes out. So I mean, can she support the fire team right here? Yes. Could you go another 2 more turns or something and get maybe 1 more stack out of Toa? Potentially, yes. But oranges don't cycle that well, right? Even a 6-hand oranges gets you barely half a protector gauge, and it's not easy to get 5 stacks of a protector using orange orbs. Even green orbs, unless you've got the Isis buff or the rain buff, it's not easy. So it's really only built for blues, which would make sense because Lumi's second skill is buffing blue damage, which we very obviously cannot use here because we're running an orange-focused team. Now, Guy's second skill is, I would say, equally useless in most senses. It does have a skill fusion, but unless you get really extremely lucky with this specific team, there's no way you can use 3 55-point skills unless you put the fire buff on Violet, send her away, and you forget about the 30%. I also don't have Guy skill fuse, so it doesn't really matter. It's kind of wonky. You gotta have certain things going on for you for it to work out. But she did equal what Guy did, just about. So does that make her a bad unit? No. But does it mean that she's doing the same amount of support as a unit that came out January of 2022? Yeah. I just want to point that out to you guys, is that... Is she useful? Sure. Yeah. Can she be easily replaced by other units? Most definitely. So, does that inherently make her a bad unit? I don't know. You guys would have to determine that for yourself. But I think we're going to call this showcase done right here. We're already crossing the 30-minute mark, so I don't want to hold you guys much longer. But Lumi. Lumi is a unit. A unit that most people don't need. Most people want, but don't need. And that's generally how the world works, right? You want something, but you don't need it. Does she look good? Yeah. Do you want her because she looks good? Yeah. Do you need her because she works well? Not really. But again, you can make your own decisions. Does the showcase paint her in a bad light? Maybe. Negative. You know, she's doing less than or equal to what older units can do, potentially. It is what it is. You can take it however way you want. But for now, my judgment has put her at not a great level. At a very replaceable level, which is not what you want for a premium summonable unit that came out yesterday. So, let me know what you guys think of Lumi, but that's it from me. Take it easy, and I will see you all later.